Okay, so this video is going to be about a little bit about the brief history of SEO. I'm going to be covering how SEO was really born over time since the internet became mainstream. So probably way back 1994, 95, the early days of America Online, and then how it evolved over time and how it is evolving currently. Currently dominated by Google, of course. Okay, so in episode 1, we'll cover a quick history of the various search engines like Lycos, Infoseek, Altavista, HotBot, Infoseek, which were basically dominant engines back in 1995 when the internet was gradually gaining popularity. And then, of course, we had Larry and Sergie along. They came with Google and their neat little algorithm, which revolved around the PageRank, which primarily had the PageRank trick to it. I'll talk a little bit about what PageRank is and what the algorithm was back then and what made it unique and how it basically worked better than the other engines out there. And then I'll cover how Google ranks pages way back then, which is very, very different from how it ranks pages currently. And we'll then touch upon how the SEOs Gatecrash the party, and Google had to do something about it because Google's search index was getting spammed. By search index, I mean the search result pages were basically getting spammed. So I'll cover that as well. Okay, so first a quick history of search engines. Back in the early days of the .com era, that's around 1995, before social media really came out, because that sort of changed the game, and I'll tell you in a bit why. There were about 10 search engines dominating the internet. There was Altavista, HotBot, Infoseek, Yahoo, Excite, Looksmart, Megellan, WebCrawler, Inktomi, AllTheWeb, Lycos, and of course Yahoo, which was not really a search engine at that point of time. It was more of a directory, and of course all these search engines were really easy to game. They didn't really have any algorithm other than relying on sole meta tags, which were like your keyword tag, description tag, and you could really game them in minutes. I mean, I would do SEO for clients back then. I was a web developer, and of course once we put up the site, clients would come to us and say, okay, now we want them indexed and ranked in search engines. And it was so simple. I would be on the phone with the client. I would say, okay, let me try this, and I'd just get on my computer while on the line with him and make a few tweaks to the website, get the spider to crawl the engine immediately, and query the search keyword, and all I'm talking about, not just top rankings, the entire first page was occupied by the client's listing for his keyword. So I'm talking about like 10 different pages ranking and just bombarding. It was basically so easy to game. These engines were just like sitting ducks. It was, and the primary reason for that happening was because they didn't really have any algorithm. They just would read the meta tags and the page content, and you would just stuff keywords inside the main description of the page, the body of the page, which were like font color equal to white against a white page. So for humans it wouldn't look ugly, but the engine would read it as content and rank it. And another way was like you'd just like see what the top sites were doing, copy the code as it was, just add to it, add more spam to the page, and submit it to the crawler to come and crawl, and the crawler would come immediately, crawl the page and index it. You do a search query for that particular keyword, and your site would rank on top if you did everything right. And of course there were tools like, at that point of time, there was Web Position Gold, which would automate the spamming process for you. And it wasn't really a link builder. It was just like an on-page optimization, or more like over optimization spamming tool. They just changed the page. In those days, social media was not around, so the backlinks coming in, which was basically Google's algorithm, which I'll talk about in a bit, was came in much later, and that's what made things difficult. And then social media made things worse for Google. we'll get into that in a bit. But so there was tons of search index spam, and this was the biggest enemy of search engines, because people could dominate a search engine for, like, the search engine companies, all these 10 search engines, and like also bad for the directors and shareholders. It's scary, right? You wake up one morning and you see your search engine is spammed with like crap, and stuff isn't working, and your whole business breaks down. So there was a huge problem over here that these search engines faced. And as we go on, then Google comes along. Okay, so along come Larry and Sergie from Stanford with their Google algorithm and their search engine Google, and they used simple logic. They used what was happening in the real world. Like, when someone is popular in the real world, let's go back before the internet. Like, how do like people become popular? How do shops become popular? How do things become popular in the real world? When people talk about you, you gain popularity. Yeah, so that's simple. So everybody starts talking and everybody starts discussing you, and you talk to somebody else, and then he goes and he talks to somebody else, and that's how popularity spreads in the real world. But the key here is, if someone who's got a big circle of friends or a network of friends or a reach, and this someone could be a newspaper or a celebrity, he's basically a power sort of sneezer. So if he talks about a particular new restaurant that's open in town, everybody hears about it like overnight, and that restaurant becomes popular. So that is the same process was put by Google Online, and they called it PageRank, and that was the key really to their algorithm. So what happens with PageRank algorithm is basically, I'll talk about that in a bit, and I just want to go on and say that when they came out with the algorithm and things were going really well from their dormitory, they went and they spoke to Yahoo, Excite, and other search engine companies, and they tried to sell their algorithm. I think it was for like $1 million, and they all got turned down at that point of time. This was, I think, back in 1999. Anyone who had 1 million and good insight could probably buy out Google and be where they are right now. And unfortunately, they were turned down, or fortunately for Google, and unfortunately for Yahoo and Excite, who were given the offer. Okay, so PageRank is the key factor of ranking pages back then. Not anymore. So I'm talking about history. So don't get confused. But you need to know your history if you want to play the SEO game, because you need to know how things evolved. So PageRank was the key factor back then, and basically PageRank talks about the amount of links coming into your site. The more links that come into your particular page or your website, the higher the PageRank is. Now, PageRank is a page factor, not a site factor, but we'll get into the details of that later. So the more inbound links you have, the more people who talk about you and talk about your site and link to your site, the more popular you get. And now they'll link to your site with a particular keyword, right? So if someone links to your site with the keyword lawyer California or lawyer Las Vegas, so your site will start ranking for that keyword. When I'm talking about the anchor text, the actual keyword that's used to link to your site. It's called the hot link also. So if everybody starts pointing to your particular page for a keyword such as lawyer Las Vegas, then you're automatically going to get a lot of link juice passing to your site, and your page rank is going to go up, and you're going to rank for that particular keyword. So the more keywords which are relevant to your site link to you, the higher you start ranking for those particular keywords. And that's basically how link juice works and how page rank works. Now, link juice is just link juice passes down from the pages that are linking to you, but link juice is never lost by any sort of page that links to you. When a page links to you or when a site links to you, it doesn't lose any of its power. It just adds more power to your site without sort of losing any of its ranking power. So there's no harm in linking to anyone. Yeah, and that's how the internet is made. I mean, hyperlinks is what makes the internet, and that's the whole philosophy behind the internet. So the whole structure behind the internet. And what Larry Google and what Larry Page did was and Sergie Brin did was they basically exploited that concept. Another very important concept is that when a more popular page links to you, if a more popular page links to you, you get more power from it. You get more link juice from it. You get more page rank power from that page. You absorb more power without it of course losing its power. And then if a small unknown site or an unknown domain links to you, yeah. So when more popular people or more popular websites link to you, you get more link juice power. So your page rank goes up at a higher rate than if a small unknown site linked to you. And that's exactly what happens in the real world also. So Google was just basically emulating what happens in the real world. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about PageRank and try and explain what it is without in the clearest possible manner. Before I do try and explain it, I just want to make it clear that PageRank has not been updated for the last 1.5 years as of middle of 2015. We're not sure really why Google has done that, but they've chosen not to publicly display any PageRank metric updates to anyone. Probably because PageRank was being used by SEOs in a powerful way, and to measure the amount of juice flowing from pages, and they want to be a little more clandestine in the way they in the algorithm and the fluctuations in the power that each page picks up. So they did in the past release regular PageRank updates, and when a new site came into existence or when pages came into existence on different websites, they acquired a particular PageRank and they increased in PageRank or they decreased in PageRank based on the amount of link juice flowing and other trust metrics. I guess with a lot of the new variables that have come into the Google algorithm, they've just decided not to share PageRank anymore, even though they may be using it internally, or they're probably using some other metric like quality score or other things. They just choose not to share it with the public because that would probably expose some of the algorithms tweaks that they make. Okay, so PageRank is at a page level. So if a site has 1,000 pages, each page on that site would have a different PageRank. It's not at a domain level, it's at a page level, although it is represented in some cases over here as though it's a domain specific. It's not really. It's a page level algorithm, and it's a page level metric. We must remember that it's not a domain level metric. But you can say that a particular root domain has PageRank 8, like over here. So that's also that's one thing you must keep in mind, that the root level could have a particular metric, and then each of the internal pages would have another metric. What they're trying to show over here in this diagram is they're trying to represent PageRank as a pyramid. As you can see, they've sort of blown up this small area and made it big over here. The sites down below have PageRank 0 to 7. And they occupy just a small fraction part of the pyramid. And as you go up higher and higher, it's an exponential growth. So you need a lot more link juice flowing in to get to the higher page ranks. It's more and more difficult to get higher up there, and that's what they're trying to show. There are many sites that are present at the base, and there are just a few sites on the top. It's important to remember that one link from say a PageRank, just as an example, one link from a PageRank 8 site could be equivalent to 10,000 PageRank 1 links. That just shows you the power of the exponential growth once again. Would have different metrics. This image is taken from Wikipedia. Don't look at the percentages over here because that's just going to confuse you, but just remember that the smaller balls over here represent the ones with lower page rank, and then as the size gets bigger, the page rank is higher. And these two big ones, of course, have the maximum link juice to them, flowing to them, and all the small ones are pushing their link juice. They're linked to this one, so they pass a lot of link juice to this particular one, and that's why it's gaining page rank and it's bigger, because all these smaller ones out here are passing some amounts of link juice up to this one. Now it's important to remember that when all these pass the link juice down into this one right here, it's going to eventually, and because the one in yellow links out to this one, the link juice flows right through. Yeah, that's something we must remember, that the link juice is flowing right through over here. Okay, and because this one has a lot of page rank, and this one has just one inbound link coming to it, but because it's from a trusted, it's from a page which has high page rank, it's bigger than these right here. Yeah, and again, this one is again the same size as this one because it's got just the same link coming in towards it, but it's also linking back to the yellow one, but it's not lost its size. So that's one thing important to remember. It's not lost its size, and that's basically because when you link out, you don't lose any page rank, right? So that's what they're trying to represent here, that the sizes of this one and this one are exactly the same, even though this one is linking out one here and one here. Yeah, so we must remember that you don't lose any sort of page rank when you link out. And of course, the two big balls over here have maximum page rank because they're sort of like the central place where all the link juice is flowing in, even through this way, through this way, through this way, through this way, directly this way. And then of course this one is linking to him, and then he's linking back, so they're both sharing a lot of link juice. Oh yeah, and this one is not being linked from anyone over here. He's only being linked from the big giant one here. So how come he gets to be that big, or almost as big? He's 38 and he's 34. How come? Don't look at the percentage values. Just think of it as some sort of metric you're using here, and actually PageRank is on a scale of 0 to all the way to 10. So how come the big one is getting a lot of the he's as big? Because B is linking to C, because he's so trusted and he's got a lot of link juice flowing into him, and he's very highly trusted, and he's got a lot of page rank, and all this link juice is eventually flowing through him into the big ones because he's linking down this way. Yeah, all this link juice. So we have all the link juice flowing from here, back here, and into him, and the link juice is coming from here into him. Yeah, from here, flowing into him, and flowing into him back here. So that's important to remember. That's exactly how PageRank flows. And one important thing is, I forgot to talk about is, and this is a slightly more advanced topic, but it is easy to grasp for some. Some of these links can be no follow, and a link can be a no follow link and a do follow link. Now, a no follow link basically tells the Google bot that when you visit my page, if they mark all the links or some of the links as no follow, it tells the spider whether he should continue going upwards and following a particular link, or whether he should just like cut it off. It's a no follow link, so don't go on further. Don't go any further. It's not a no index. It's just telling it, even though it's not leaking any page rank, there are some reasons why people mark links as no follow. So it's telling the Google bot that just don't go beyond that. I'm not linking to that page, and you can get to that page some other way, but my links to that page are all no follow links, and that helps in some cases of SEO, which I will explain at a later stage. But if a link is do follow, the link juice does pass on. But if a link is no follow, the link juice does not pass on. So if this link is no follow, then the link juice will not pass on. Although that does not mean some value is not being passed on. There is some linking value being passed on. We're not sure exactly what that is, but there is some. But more or less, the power of the link juice is not being passed on. So like if a page has like 500 blog comments, and they probably may choose to mark all the links inside those blog comments as no follow. So there's no like heavy sort of outbound linking happening, and that's why some people do it. So over here they've just like given an example, and there's a bar over here which shows that the level of effort to get to a PageRank 7 is much. It gets more and more difficult as you go up, and the number of sites having a higher page rank, as like PageRank 10, there'd just be a few like Google, is almost like just shared by just the top sites on the internet. And when a site enters index, it has a page rank of NA, and that's before Google chooses not to sort of give it a score when the algorithm refresh hasn't happened, which is why a lot of new sites that have come into existence and new pages that have come into existence after the last update, which happened a year and a half ago, have a page rank of NA. So it just doesn't have a score allotted to it as yet. And then when the Google PageRank update does happen, and when things do get recalculated, then a site could appear as PageRank 0, or you could even jump up to PageRank 2. Sorry, a page could appear as PageRank 0, or it could have just suddenly appear and have a page rank of 2 if it does have a lot of trusted links coming in or higher and things like that. Or you can progress directly. There's no like set method. You don't have to go through page rank 1, 2, 3 in sequence. You can jump up, and you can probably jump down now also, because the link can have a negative value. But it must be noted that the PageRank algorithm hasn't been updated since the entire buzz about Penguin came about and panned out around the same time. I would say just slightly before that. So that's PageRank explained for you. Okay, so along come SEOs, and by SEOs I mean search engine optimizers, who start gaming Google and understand how their algorithm works. Of course, it was a patented algorithm, so it was available online for everyone to see. Though all the factors were not put online, but you could just understand how PageRank worked. And then there was a smaller group of SEOs out there who started gaming Google, and they had their own small community, and a lot of these tricks were close kept secrets. And as people started understanding how Google worked at that point of time, things started to change for Google, as more and more spam would slowly fill up Google, especially for the higher keywords which had a lot of money in them. The Google search and index, the Google SERPs were being spammed, and then a lot of these small tools started becoming public and being sold, and that's when all the methods privately used by SEOs started being publicly available, and they started flooding the web and the internet, and that's how the trouble became even more serious with Google. When Web 2.0 and social media concept came into birth, and you know, anyone could go to a site and quickly put up a blog without really having to build their own domain, and all these social media sites suddenly started gaining traction online. Any people would develop tools through which you could spam these sites. I mean, you could submit all your backlinks to these sites, and then they would all point back to your website, and so it became easier and easier to game Google this way. Yeah, you didn't have to really go out there, buy like 20 domains and start, building links to your site. You could achieve the same thing by setting up 1,000 accounts on 100 Web 2.0 social media sites, use a tool and quickly bombard links to your site, and you would rank very, very quickly. So that became a huge problem with Google, as these tools that enable people to do that automatically, not just manually, and by hiring a team, like a set of VAs working out of Philippines or India at that point of time, people could just use these tools and spam Google and start ranking for keywords really, really easily. So that's when Google started to sense trouble, and they obviously needed to fix things. Okay, so coming up next will be how Google reacts to the search engine spam that suddenly took them by surprise, and they came up with the Panda and the Penguin algorithms and a few others like the Hummingbird, and there are a couple of other ones. So we'll talk about that, and we'll also touch upon what Black Hat SEO is and what White Hat SEO is in the next episode.